Is interesting, earth-shaking, entertaining, or just nice to read.
Yeah, I think the what's being defined today as a celebrity is changing, and no longer does will the industry curate and say this person's a celebrity, this person's a celebrity. You can have celebrities today. We have internet celebrities. We have Twitter celebrities who have big following, or not maybe as well known, or not in movies, or not in these things. And I think it's sort of changing the way fans interact and fans appoint celebrities. Much more democratic, I would say, in a sense. So when you have these interactions and you're creating these communities and you're giving your opinions, do you meet these people sometimes who interact with you offline, or is this all virtual and is this just all online relationships?
Largely it's online, but there are some face-to-face interactions by people who say, thanks for retweeting me. Or there was a case recently, I was at the Meta Theatre Awards, Mahindra Excellence in Theatre Awards, and there was a girl who said, I would really love to come and see these awards at the award function. And I said, sure. Do come, I'll make sure you get in. She said, can I bring my boyfriend? I said, absolutely. So the two of them came, and that was a nice thing I was able to do because of Twitter. Because I realized this girl had been following my tweets on all the plays that I'd seen and had reacted to them. So I knew she was a theatre buff and needed and wanted to go to this awards function to which she wasn't invited. So I thought that was a nice thing to do. But I think the interesting thing about Twitter and social media in general is the way that it brings communities together or creates communities. That was the big promise of the internet, apart from larger communications, etc. Was that people with similar interests could congregate in the virtual world. And even though there might be minorities, extreme minorities, with maybe strange hobbies or collections or interests in their towns, but put together on a world platform, reaching out to people with similar interests, they could form a substantial group and a community and communicate among themselves. So the growth of communities, virtual communities, is what's always interested me, because it takes people out of the trap of the smaller communities in which they live, which can be quite restrictive, especially in the smaller towns, in terms of social behavior, thoughts, actions, where you are free to share whatever you believe in or whatever interests you on a larger platform. That has always interested me greatly. Plus the ability to transmit ideas. Now, things like the Arab Spring and all these revolutions that have taken place across the Arab world weren't caused by Twitter, weren't caused by Facebook, or by YouTube, or by Google, but certainly those resentments that festered for generations, which brought people together, was able to organize itself much better because these people organized themselves into the virtual communities of revolt within their countries. Which is why governments always see easier communication between groups of people as a threat. In the film industry, walkie-talkies were banned. Why? Because terrorists might use them. And terrorists those days used to be the insurgencies in the northeast, the Naga insurgency, Kashmir or something. Terrorists might use them. So this country was denied radio taxis, because they said terrorists might use them, this radio communication. So while the rest of the world had radio taxis and was happily able to use that, we had banned radio taxis. Even now, they have banned satellite phones because terrorists might use them. Forget the fact that across the entire Himalayas, people will well do with them, or in the deserts, or in the far rural areas of India that have no connectivity, or on the oil rigs. So, the same way, the ability of people to communicate through social media in a way that is not observable by government is a threat. Because earlier, say, watching somebody and censoring him, you steamed open an envelope, you read his letters, you tapped his phone, and you watched it. And you had the guy. Today, that just doesn't apply. With mobile phones around, with the internet, etc., it's much harder to keep that form of surveillance on people. And largely, you cannot control what people say. Now, this is people talking to people. The government doesn't enter. If I say something that's offensive to you at a party and you're insulted back, you say something back to me. As long as it doesn't result in violence, that is between you and me. The government doesn't enter here. But when the government enters a space where they say, this must be taken down because it is offensive to so-and-so, that creates a huge dilemma. Because there are 3 types of censorship. One, that you pre-censor, that before it is put on, you check the content and you remove it, which is humanly impossible. I mean, with 48 hours of video being uploaded to YouTube every hour, sorry, every minute, it's impossible to pre-censor that. Facebook, 900 million people, how are you going to pre-censor what anyone says? Twitter, 300 million people and growing. There's no way you can pre-censor that. So the next stage of censorship is, once it's there, you remove it. Again, impossible to monitor. Impossible to go through all that material. The third form of censorship is somebody says, that is objectionable, please remove it. Now we're entering a domain which enters the realm of possibility. However, if I say, what you said about so-and-so is not to my liking, please remove it, who is to judge this? The people judging this are not a government. They're executives in a corporation. Are they supposed to know what is offensive to every Arab, every Jew, every Turk, every Armenian, every Indian, every Pakistani, every Hindu, every Muslim? There's no way that these individuals can make those value judgments sitting as executives in a company on issues around the world. So it has to be something that universally we agree on in a forum that these are against all community standards, therefore must be removed, rather than specific community standards. So that opens up a whole issue of censorship of the media. But the real object of that is to control political dissent. And this issue involves me, interests me, because largely I believe that freedoms are something you have to continuously fight for. You cannot hope that freedom once given will remain sacrosanct, because there will always be those that want to take it away from you. Which is why I'm so opposed to the whole concept of censorship on the net. Beyond that, is there anything you want to ask?
And so I think, when you're building these communities and you have these followers, you have a sense, you have a responsibility. And some people say, depending on the viewpoint, that you're either taking advantage of the system by organizing, things against other people, or some people find things objectionable. What role should the government play? Because when the government starts playing censor and taking away freedom of speech, they actually stifle creativity, and they sort of reduce the types of innovation that can happen. And it becomes very difficult when outsiders see this to say, this is the kind of country, this is the kind of place I want to do business. It sends the wrong message.
No, that is true. That is true. And we certainly don't want to be equated with the likes of China and Korea and Saudi Arabia and Iran, etc. But there's one important thing to understand. Those who say that the internet cannot be censored are wrong. It can be censored. China has had a very successful policy of censorship of the internet, blocking of various sites. Now, there are some geeks and hackers in China also found ways around this, but largely people in China are cut off from a lot of the social media, and the government has shown that if it wants, it can really cut you off and curtail your freedoms in those ways. But then, China has never given you the freedom of speech in the same way that we expect it here. So therefore, it is no shame to them to do this by extending it to the whole field of the internet. The internet is another paradigm altogether, which governments haven't fully understood or grappled with. And maybe there are forums that need to be created, maybe through the United Nations, where any disputes that arise in the internet about what should or should not be there are adjudicated in a way whereby that is taken away from the jurisdiction of local courts, which becomes very problematic. If somebody puts up something offensive to me in California, I have to go to the US and find US lawyers to sue him. Because the laws of the real world apply in the online world as well, but only in the country where the person has to be sued. So perhaps there is a need to create a new forum where these issues can be taken up, where the traditional processes of judicial systems are dispensed with or changed, whereby submissions can be by email in a virtual world. People can make their case online, and judges can decide online without people having to travel 1,000,000 miles and spend thousands of dollars to fight their cases. So, with the emergence of this incredible medium of communication and socializing and spread of ideas and commerce and governance, there will have to be new forms that come up. And I do believe that some form of adjudication should be there on disputes that affect people in a larger sense. Because otherwise, what will happen is, in the absence of that, the governments will start to impose their local will. And if 200 countries start imposing their local wills on the governance of the internet and start banning things because they don't like them, it will be a very messy situation. So I'm for the creation of an international court of the internet to resolve such disputes, to head off the objections that individual national governments might have.
I want to open up to questions. Do we have a microphone and someone has the mics? Do we have questions ready? Okay, why don't you do this? While we do the next question, ready, has anyone ever written anything objectionable to you on Twitter, and what did you do about it? I
just cut them off. Block them. I don't want to hear from them again. I don't get into an argument with people I don't care about.
Okay, please.
Mr. Bedi, sharing is the great virtue of all human beings. We love to share ideas, we love to share material things that we have that others might not have. And recently we've seen the Department of Telecom and a private company called Copyright Labs issue a court order to block file sharing websites and photos like BitTorrent, etc. What are your views on those websites whose core values are also sharing between people?
Are you specifically referring to sharing movies or what?
Any content, any copyrighted content.
So, how do you feel about when your old movies are shared, pirated online?
I'm not worried about old movies being shared, etc. But being a member of the film industry, the issue of piracy does affect me, because I know how much the entertainment industries of the world are robbed blind by pirates. First it was the VCR pirates, then it was the DVD pirates, CD pirates, now it's the internet pirates. I do believe that new material should be protected in certain ways, whereby the makers of that material have a fair chance of recouping what they invested. And I do believe that the older material should be given its due, but today what's happened is that a film's fate is decided literally in the first week. The first weekend will tell you whether the film is going to work or not. your biggest revenues come from there. But I also believe that the film industry itself is guilty of allowing this piracy to happen, because the new paradigm that we have before us should mandate for us a simultaneous release in all media. In other words, we should be able to release the same day theatres, television, internet, whatever form it takes. It doesn't matter whether the theatrical revenue goes down a bit, or the television revenues rise, or the internet revenues rise or fall. Those things will even out. The important thing is the revenue will come to the producer. It's because of this time lag that we have. The theatrical releases now, TV is 3 weeks later or 3 months later, internet, we will get the rights so much later. That allows the pirates this window to come in and offer you what you want. You don't want to go to the theatre. Your neighbor pirate says, or Vania says, I've got a CD of this latest release, you want to see it at home? You say, sure, I'll see it at home. So it makes it easy for the pirates. Now, as the example of iTunes has shown, that despite the incredible piracy that takes place in the music world, there are still people who pay billions of dollars for legitimately buying music at a fair price. So, if we offer the customers that option and give them the freedom to see what they want, when they want, at a fair price, it will certainly reduce piracy. But on the other hand, any measure that can be taken against piracy, I certainly and fully support.
So another question, Alok?
Just wanted to get your views around social commerce.
The question is,
wanted to get your views around social commerce, especially in US. We've seen businesses where celebrities have created communities, started endorsing products, and now in fact are selling to their followers. In your view, you kind of champion the notion of social media in the context of creating community, sharing ideas. How does that relationship change when you use the same channels for direct commercial purposes? The boundary between opinion, endorsement, and direct selling not being clear to the followers.
Interesting, we had this discussion earlier.
Yeah, Gautam asked me earlier, he said, would you endorse a product on Twitter or Facebook? And it's an interesting question, because if I endorse a product on television or a product in the newspapers as a celebrity and somebody choosing my brand value to promote their product, that's considered perfectly valid. Would I do so in the social media? My answer to him was yes, provided people knew it was an ad. Because in those media it's clear that this is an advertisement. In the social media, the line gets a bit blurred for celebrities. If somebody says, I love this particular product, that's great, but were they paid to say it? Or are they just telling us, I love it, so you guys also share it? That's a line of distinction that needs to be made clear. And I think this has to be, a certain way has to be found to do this. They already do this. You'll see ads saying a sponsored ad. The word sponsored comes in front of it, you know it's an ad. So I think that celebrity advertising through social media will certainly grow, because social media is growing. Celebrities have been in all other media. There's no reason why they should not be part of social media as well. But I think it should be clear what is an ad and what is their personal preferences. Hopefully, in the best case scenario, celebrities should endorse products they really like.
What are your views about the government of India controlling access to blogs? Like, for example, there was a court case recently where at first Google, Yahoo and the others contested it very heavily, and at some point they accepted certain types of restrictions. Like if I try to access a blog from India, I'm redirected to xyz.blogspot.in, and that .in means that it has actually possibly been censored. So, I mean, what are your views on that?
The truth of the matter is, if you look at the current law that controls the internet in India, every single person in this room has the ability to request the shutdown of any site. Any site. In fact, the Center for Internet Research in Bangalore did an exercise on this. They sent objections to 12 random websites on very flimsy grounds, saying please remove this, and all of them were taken down without the original owners even being told that they were taken down. Because people are scared that if they don't comply with the law, then they will get in trouble with the government. The fact is, this internet law that we have is extremely dangerous because it makes it possible for anyone to ask for any site to be taken down. And makes it almost obligatory for the site to comply. It's a very dangerous law. And like, anyway, I won't get into comparisons there, but this law is going to be the basis of a lot of future litigation. Because I can see a situation arising as a result of this law where perfectly valid sites are taken to task for not removing certain content because XYZ asked for them, and the government says, well, you broke the law, even though there may be no basis for taking down the site or that comment. And I see this as a very tricky legal minefield that we're getting into because not enough debate went into this internet law, and it has been put into effect with very dangerous consequences.
Great. Thanks for the answer.
One of the most important issues facing the internet for India today, and everyone in this audience has a responsibility to make sure we do our part to educate the lawmakers and to keep the internet free for everybody. Let's take the next question. Do any more questions? Okay, last question then.
So maybe during the days of Anna's movement.
Sorry, I can't hear.
Yeah, can you hear me? During the days of Anna's movement, when Arnab Goswami from Times Now, in the news art debate, he was enthusiastically covering the issue, and one of the days I saw Sharad Yadav, the politician Sharad Yadav, stating that yaar is Bengali ka muh band karwao. I mean, don't you find such statement from a person like Sharad Yadav sitting in parliament and saying is Bengali ka muh band karwao? Don't you find it offensive? How come they are authoritatively saying that people are writing offensive comments on Facebook? That hurts them, that pinches them. But can't they see this, what a person like him saying, or a very well known editor like Arnab, very well educated also, I must say. I don't know the educational background of Sharad Yadav.
Whether it comes from a news anchor, or from a politician, or from you or me, the freedom of expression includes the right to offend. I have a right to offend you. As long as I'm not violent with you, as long as I'm not inciting people to violence or causing anything illegal to happen, I have a right to insult you and you have a right to insult me. That is one of the pains and pleasures of the right to free speech. And I think we should uphold that.
Very well said. Do we have any more questions? Otherwise, thank you, Mr. Bedi. It was great.
Well, thank you for
very insightful discussion.
Inspiring me with all your wonderful questions. Thank you.
And we have a little gift for you.
You do?
Yes.
Wow. Books in the age of the internet. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate that. Thank you. You do? All right. Oh, you found out I like Jaffa cakes. That's an endorsement of a product I like. Jaffa cakes are great. Thank you again for me. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Great. Thank you so much for being here.
started pressing upon it